He was the companion of Ramcharan, and these two were friends of Baka. They can't directly go and draw the water from the well. If they do so, they were supposed to face the consequences. Wherever they go, they were not supposed to touch any of the things. Even in the shops, they were supposed to stand far, and the things what they buy were thrown on them. Hello everyone, I am Shobita S. Aradhya, lecturer, Department of English, Vidhyaashram, First Grade College, MYSURU, the Temple of Excellence. Welcome back for your English classes, and in the last class we saw that how Baka was treated, what was the work he was doing, and how he recalls his mother when his father treats him bad or shouts at him, abuses him. And we also saw that he was fascinated by the fashion of the British people, or the Tommies. Tommies means here those who were British citizens and they were playing hockey. They are called Tommies in this novel. And he was fascinated by the fashion of those people. He wore the dresses of those people, and he was also thinking that Indians do not wear the clothes properly, or their style is old-fashioned, and the way Hindus perform their rituals was not updated. They are doing the old rituals, and all these kind of opinion he had for Hindus. So let us see what happens next. So in the last session we saw he has finished his morning job, that is cleaning the 3 rows of latrines, and after that he returns home. What happens next? Let us see. The well and the thirsty untouchables. In those days, there was practice that untouchables means these lower caste people were not allowed to draw water from the public well. The public wells were meant only for the upper caste Hindu people. And if these society people, the downtrodden or the lower caste people, they want water, they had to wait for any kind Hindu caste person to draw water from the well and pour it to their pitcher. So this was the practice in those days. So we have given the title here, The Well and the Thirsty Untouchables. It may take an hour, 2 hours, or morning till afternoon for these people, these low caste people to wait near the well for a kind person to come and draw them water. So let us start now. Baka finishes his morning shift of the work and comes back home. After cleaning the 3 rows of latrines, he comes back home. He had a practice that his mother would prepare him hot tea with hot water, some milk and tea leaves. It was very tasty and energizing to him. After his mother's death, he was missing all those. So when he returns home after the job, he was thirsty and he was hungry. He is hungry and thirsty, for he has not eaten anything since morning. But he worked continuously. All the 3 rows, he had cleaned them almost 2 to 3 times. So it was a continuous rushing work for him. He was very hungry and thirsty after that work. Sohini, who is Sohini? Sohini is Baka's sister. So Sohini tries hard to lit the fire, but wet fuel fails her. So they were not having the modern stoves. What they used was the wood stove. So where the pieces of wood or the cow dung cakes were used for fueling. So that fuel was wet. If the fuel is wet, the wood or the dung cakes, if they are wet, they give lot of smoke and they don't give the fire, the heat to the vessel. So she was trying hard to lit the fire, but the wet fuel failed her. Every time she tried, she blew the air, the wet fuel did not burn properly. So she knew that her brother is very hungry and thirsty and he needs a cup of tea now. But she could not do because of the wet fuel she was having. She realizes that there is no water. By that time, she realizes that there is no water left in home. So what she does, she has to go to the well and wait for a kind soul, Hindu caste kind soul to come and give her some water. She balances the pitcher and goes to the well. Pitcher, the pot, she balances it on her head and she walks to the well. So like now, if you turn the tap, you get water at home, in any corner of the home. But those days they were walking far distances, fetch water, bring it back to home and use it very efficiently and economically. So she balances the pitcher, goes to the well of the caste Hindus, as I told you, to the upper caste Hindus well, where she counts on the chance of some gentleman taking pity on her and giving her water she needed. So she sat near the pavement on the floor and she was waiting with her pitcher for a kind gentleman, Hindu gentleman, who would come and show some pity to her and fill her pitcher with the water. So she was waiting there. The untouchables crowd round the well. So it was not only Sohini, there were many other people waiting there in a crowd. So if a gentleman comes, he can give to one or two people whom he feels he want to give. Others have to wait for more time. So this was the practice there. They are desperate in need of water. Can we stay for a long time without water when we are thirsty? No. So water is very essential. You all know that. But here in those days, the people, even though it is needed, they are thirsty, they are dying, they have to wait for a kind Hindu person to come and give them some water. But they can't dare drawing water from the well. They can't directly go and draw the water from the well. If they do so, they were supposed to face the consequences, because it was procedure of polluting the Hindu people. If they pollute the Hindu people would not spare them. They would punish them. They would abuse them. They would show all their anger on the lower caste people. So it was very difficult. They could not go directly and draw water from the well. They had to wait. So here Sohini, she sat waiting for a kind person. About this, the drawing of water and waiting for the Hindu people, Mulk Raj Anand, he writes in his book, so the outcasts had to wait for a chance to bring some caste Hindu to the well, for luck to decide that he was kind, for fate to ordain that he had time to get their pitchers filled with water. A kind Hindu gentleman has to come, he has to be kind, and he has to have time to draw water and pour it to the outcast people's pitcher. So all this would take a long time. They crowded round the well, congested the space below its high brick platform, morning, noon and night, joining their hands in servile humility. So how they were waiting? Here he tells they were waiting on the pavement. What is the basement kind of thing built around the well? There they were waiting, they were congested, they were in a crowd, but they were not supposed to touch even the wall of the well. So they were waiting there, and how they were waiting? Morning, noon and night. All the time they were waiting, because they could not directly go and fetch water. And with servile humility, like begging, servile humility to every passerby. So whoever was passing, they were asking them, please draw some water from the well and fill our pitcher. They were requesting everyone and cursing their fate. They were cursing their own fate because they have born in outcast. So they cursed on their fate and bemoaning their lot, mourning. So they were sad for their lot, what fate they have got. They were refused the help they wanted. If they refuse, everyone can't be kind. If they are begging, the person may not come and draw water for them. So at that time, if somebody refuses, they wanted the water, they prayed, they beseech, means they begged, they requested, they prayed the God and they asked for the blessings. If some generous soul condescended to listen them or to help them. If a kind person would tell himself, okay, I'll help them, and would come. They were waiting for this. They were praying the god. They were requesting. They were begging, holding the pitcher in their hands. So Mulk Raj Anand writes this in his text about the practice of fetching water from the well. So by that time, when they were crowded, they were waiting, Sohini sat there. There was one lady called Gulabo. I have mentioned this in my previous session also. Gulabo was the woman of washerman community. So these washermen were considered as little higher caste or little higher level of group among the outcasts. So Gulabo was a beautiful lady at her young age. Even at this age she was beautiful, and she was not happy with Sohini because Sohini was beautiful. Among the outcast people, though they were dirty, though they did not take bath every day, she was beautiful among their group. So Gulabo was jealous about Sohini's beauty. When Sohini comes, Gulabo starts troubling her. She abuses her. She scolds her. She irritates her. But Sohini, she sits quiet without reacting to Gulabo. At one point, Gulabo tries to hit Sohini. By that time, another woman, Waziro, she stops Gulabo, and by that time, when this quarrel was happening, by that time, fortunate caste Hindu priest approaches. So he comes near the well. He was suffering from chronic constipation. That Hindu priest who came to help, he was suffering from chronic constipation. He thought, if drawing water from the well is a kind of exercise. So if I draw water, he thought, my constipation problem will be resolved. So I may get some relief from constipation. With that mindset, this priest comes to draw water. So here we see he wants to relieve himself from this trouble by drawing water from the well. So he wants relief from the trouble of constipation. He draws water and pours it into Sohini's pitcher. Though there were many people, Gulabo had come earlier to Sohini, but this priest, he pours water to Sohini's pot. Why? Was he so kind? Was he thinking Sohini, she was quiet, she did not quarrel with Gulabo, so I should give her water? No, that was not the reason. The reason was the priest, he was impressed by the beauty of Sohini. Those days, people did not, means these outcast people did not get proper clothes. So Sohini was wearing a loin cloth dresses, so which was transparent, which was not covering her complete body, which was transparent. And Sohini, as she was of the teenage, she had a good physique also. The curves in her body attracted the priest. So this priest poured water to Sohini's pitcher. It was not pity, it was not his kindness, it was just his infatuation towards Sohini. Because he was impressed by her patience and beauty. The curves of her body impressed him. Laka scolds her for being late. But she did not have any other option. Laka was angry at daughter. Laka, he was very impatient. Laka, Sohini's father, was impatient. We have seen his abusing words for Baka. Now he scolds Sohini also. But what Sohini does? She pays no heed to her father's invectives. So continuously blaming, abusing. She did not give any notice to that. She tries to ignore Laka's words. So because of all these incidents near the well, she was late. Laka scolds her, but she kept calm and she goes to prepare breakfast. She prepares to breakfast and serves to her insistent brothers, who were continuously asking, demanding for breakfast. So Baka and Raka. I told you during character introduction that Raka and Baka were brothers and Sohini was their sister. Laka had 3 children. She serves Baka and Raka, and her father, who was least resistance to hunger, who could not wait. If he is hungry, he has to eat. He could not wait with hunger. He was least resistance to hunger. So she serves even her father. Then after this, Baka leaves to do the work which his father instructs him to do in his stead. So Laka gives the work of his, cleaning the roads and all. So the sweeping of roads was done by Laka and cleaning of latrines was done by Baka, his son. But now instead of Laka doing that, he asks Baka to do. So after breakfast and having his cup of tea, Baka, he starts to move towards the town. So Baka proceeds to the town. Baka comes out of his house and proceeds to the town out of his colony. So colony was out of the town. Never these outcast colonies were inside the town. They were in the outskirts of the town. He comes out of his house and leaves his colony towards town. He is in a playful mood, rather he was jovial. After his work done, after his stomach is filled, he was in a joyful mood. He was very jovial, and in that mood he starts singing to himself. He begins to sing to himself and he stops when he realizes that he is being watched by Ramcharan and Chota. Who are Ramcharan and Chota? These are the other outcast kids of that colony. So he goes on walking, singing song in a jovial mood. By that time he realizes that Ramcharan and Chota are observing him. So then he stops singing. Here we should know about Ramcharan and Chota. Ramcharan, another kid who was again fascinated by the fashion of the British. He applied a lot of oil and took a craft on the side as the British people, the Tommies did, and he combed it. He used to wear the clothes like the British people, and he was considered as more as the British follower. And Chota, another outcast kid, he was following Ramcharan. He could not do as much as Ramcharan would follow the fashion of British, but he tried his best. He was follower of Ramcharan. He was the companion of Ramcharan, and these two were friends of Baka. He felt abashed at being seen, absorbed in singing to himself. So when he looks at Ramcharan and Chota, he feels, oh, they are observing me, and he feels a little shy. They always made butt of him, ridicule him, the weight of his body. So whose body? Baka was having a heavy body. So always Ramcharan and Chota, what they did, they ridiculed Baka for his weight. The shape of his clothes, he was wearing loose clothes. So that was also teased. They took fun of that. And his gait, so his heavy body, which was a bit like an elephant. So to what they consider here, Mulkraj Anand is comparing Baka's body to elephant's body, like bulk body he had. And on account of his heavy and swaying buttocks. So his buttocks were heavy, so swaying, hanging kind of body, heavy body he had. So his body is compared to elephants. A bit like a tiger's lithe and supple. So he compares some parts to tiger and the other many parts to elephant's body to show that Baka was having a bulk body, a heavy body. So when he comes out of his colony, he was singing on the road and he meets Ramcharan and Chota, and Ramcharan Chota ridicules him for his body. By that time, Baka stops singing to himself. Baka is informed that Ramcharan's sister is going to be married. So he gets a news that Ramcharan's sister's marriage is being fixed and very soon she will be married. Chota persuades him to work. Chota tells him, let's go and play. You don't go to work today and all as friends do. But Baka declines, making an excuse that he has a lot of work to do and that his father is ill. So he takes an excuse from Chota saying that I have lot of work, my father is ill and I have to work instead of him. So he takes excuse from missing his work. He is then asked to participate in a game of hockey the afternoon and he concedes to it. So afternoon they plan to play hockey. So where did they learn hockey? Again from British people. So we saw that Charat Singh who shouted at Baka to clean the latrines and blamed Baka that because of you, as you have not cleaned the latrines, I got contagion of piles. I am suffering piles because of sitting on these dirty latrines and all. We saw that. So Charat Singh was also a hockey player in the military, in the army. The two sons of Burra Babu are to bring extra hockey sticks, but the outcast children do not have any hockey sticks of their own. These outcast children, they could not have their hockey sticks, their own hockey stick. But Burra Babu's two kids, they were supposed to bring the hockey sticks to others also. So this was the plan of Baka and his friends Chota and Ramcharan for the afternoon. Baka shows a strong yearning for learning alphabets of English, and in order to learn alphabets, he makes a bargain with the elder son of Burra Babu. So Burra Babu, they were much in contact with British people. So here he wants to learn English alphabets. For that he asks the elder son of Burra Babu. He bargains, if you teach me English alphabets, I'll give you this, or I can help you in this way. This is the bargain that happens between Baka and elder son of Burra Babu. He agrees to pay him an anna. So those days rupees was the highest amount. So transaction was done in annas. So the cost of living was not as high as we have today. So everything was in annas, and Baka here agrees to give 1 anna for teaching English alphabet. Baka proceeds and buys a packet of cigarettes from the beetle shop. Here the incident of buying cigarettes from the beetle shop. So he wanted red lamp cigarettes. So that red lamp cigarettes, to buy that, he goes to the shop, a small petty shop, where he asks for the red lamp cigarettes, and the shopkeeper, he humiliates him, he irritates him for paying, because Baka cannot touch and give his money to the shopkeeper. So he was insulted there, and later Baka requests him to show a place where he can keep the money. Then a board was shown to Baka to keep the money and live from there. So wherever they go, they were not supposed to touch any of the things. Even in the shops, they were supposed to stand far, and the things what they buy were thrown on them. And money was asked to keep in some place. See the differences. Things what these outcast people buy were thrown on them, but money had value for Hindu people. Money was asked to keep in some place. So this is how they were treated. Here, while buying the red lamp cigarette in the beetle shop also, Baka was insulted very badly. And finally he gets his cigarette. He joins his hand and begs to know where he could put a coin to pay for a packet of the red lamp. It is the name of the cigarette. So he joins his hand and begs. Begging was common for each and everything. The outcasts were to beg, holding their hands. This was the common scene those days. So this is how the outcasts were treated in the Hindu society. Later he was told to put it on a board near him, and he keeps the money and he walks away. Reaching the main street, Baka looks at the various articles displayed in shops' windows. So he was walking in the main streets now. You should recall that I told you, if outcasts are walking in the street, they were supposed to make some noise, shout and tell that an outcast is walking, please keep yourself far. So this was the practice. They had to announce that they are coming. It was not in pride, but the Hindus thought if they touch these people, the Hindus will get polluted. So he was walking in the main street, and Baka was again, he was very much fascinated by the articles, various articles kept in the shops, which were displayed in the shops. He buys some cheap sweets because he cannot afford expensive ones. To buy these sweets also, he stand on the corner somewhere. From far, he watches all the sweets in the shop and he waits for his turn. He will be observing the customers coming there, asking the price and buying things. So by then he'll decide which is the sweet which he can afford, or the sweet which is for the cheaper cost. He waits for that, and then he comes to the shop and he decides that he'll buy jalebis, because jalebis were the only sweet which were available for the money what Baka had. Even to buy this, he had fear in him because his father may scold him. His father was very strict. He was not supposed to spend all his money for eating, because Baka has to look after the family also. After his mother, it was his turn to look after the family. So he thinks for a long time whether to buy sweet or not. And finally, he feels that I am earning some money. If I want to have some delicious sweets, I should have. And he dares to buy the cheapest sweets from the shop. So he cannot afford expensive ones. He is relishing sweets and munching playfully. After buying those jalebis, he opens the packet, eats one. It was very tasty, juicy, sweet, and he was munching it. He was very playful. He was happy with the sweet. He was walking on the street. He moves on carefree. He forgets that he is in the main street and he has to make the announcement that he is walking in the street. And absorbed by his fancy about English lesson, he was completely involved in what he had learned from Burra Babu's elder son. Some English lessons was taught to him. He indulged in recalling all those. But very soon his fancy proved to be short-lived. His fancy of eating delicious sweet, recalling of English lessons taught by elder son of Burra Babu. So all those fancy are short-lived, unreal and illusion, because what happens, as a caste Hindu begins to scold him and accuses him of polluting, because without having the sense, Baka touches the caste Hindu person, priest. So this caste Hindu person starts shouting at him, yelling at him in the main street. Baka, he apologized, but the callous caste Hindu does not melt. So Baka, he realizes that unknowingly he has touched the caste Hindu person. Now Baka, he knows his situation. He can't shout back at the Hindu caste person. So what he does, he begs, he apologizes, he says, I'm sorry, I wasn't knowing. All those he tries, but this caste Hindu person, he do not melt for all his requests. He slaps Baka and spoils his rendering unfit to eat. So when the caste Hindu person slaps Baka, the sweet what he was holding in hand, it falls down. Now it was not suitable to eat. It was unfit to eat because it was completely soiled, and he was insulted by a slap in the street. These outcast people would not also say that I am insulted. So they were born to be insulted. This was the condition those days. Baka tends to be angry, but he soon comes to realize that he is an outcast, therefore he has to shout and announce his approach when he moves on a public road. So he was angry. He was a young guy, 18 years old guy. Definitely he can get angry when somebody slaps him in the street, but he cannot show his anger because there was mistake done by him that he did not announce while he was walking on the streets. So he realizes that, dan his turban again and proceeds announcing his approach. So by this time what happens? A Muhammadan means Muslims. A Muslim guy is called Muhammadan here. Ali comes there. He was riding his horse cart, and he shouts that, please move aside, I am coming, my horse cannot be controlled. He shouts this on the street because his horse cart was going very fast. By that time, all the other people who crowded there, they get dispersed, but this Brahmin continues to blame him. And when he comes very near to the Hindu caste and Baka, that time the caste Hindu, he moves away. And after that, the Muhammadan, Ali, he condoled Baka and tells him, be careful, you need to announce when you are walking on the road. Now you move from here. So it was the Muhammadan, a Muslim guy called Ali, who helps. Even the Muslims were treated as outcasts by the Hindus. Even they were not touched. So he knew all this, so only he shouts while coming. After this, he dan his turban. The turban what he has wore, he removes it, he puts that on his shoulder and proceeds announcing his approach. Baka comes across a bull. So from there he starts moving again, he walks. By that time he comes across a bull. You must be knowing bull is a holy animal for Hindus. So when he comes across a bull, he watches that the Hindus are touching the animal reverently. You can see any Hindu touching the cow and thinking it as the God's animal. So he watches that the bull is emitting foul smell and excreting dung on the road. He also observes that the bull is emitting foul smell. It was not given a bath, it was emitting foul smell and also excreting dung on the road. But Hindu people, they touched it, they did whatever they do, they prayed, they did everything. At that time, Baka thinks and he is puzzled over the hypocrisy of the Hindu. So these Hindu people, they call themselves as the upper caste. They think they are the cleanest group, the community in the society. But how could they touch a foul smelling animal, and how could they walk on the road where it has emitted the dung and all? Okay. So he was puzzled over the hypocrisy of the Hindu tradition that is more generous to an animal than to an outcast. So here the practices of Hindu caste people was generous to animal but very rigid to the outcast people. The other human being was not given that respect, that love and care, but an animal was given, it was respected as God. So this puzzles Baka. So this is what happened when he comes to town for his next work, where he was going to do his father's work, sweeping of streets. So this was the incident that happens the same day. So this is all we learned today, and the remaining part we'll be discussing in the next session. Until then, take care, bye-bye and thank you.